Hello and welcome to Chapter 7, Section 1 on market structures. We're getting ready for the midterm exam, which is going to cover chapters 1 through 7. And so, what I'm going to talk about is Chapter 7. Remember, go through the book, use your review sheet, and get yourself ready. The test will be soon. Okay, pure competition. What we're looking at is ways in which our market is set up. And so, in a perfect world, we would have pure competition. And obviously, a perfect world does not exist. And so, but we use it to study what could happen. So, in pure competition, there will be lots of people buying and lots of people selling, and the things that are being bought and sold are identically the same, meaning all phones are the same, all stores, all cars, everything. But that's not exactly how things work. But in this scenario, pure competition, they are exactly the same. And each of the stores, each of the people buying, and each of the people selling, they act independently on their own with no connection to each other. Okay, and we would have really good information, and we're actually getting close to that because of online research. We pretty much know what's out there and what the prices are, and then there's voluntary exchange. Buyers and sellers are free to enter and leave the market as they want, and nobody can make them purchase. Nobody can force them not to purchase or not to sell. One of the things we do see is monopolistic competition, and it's very similar. But we have large companies that tend to dominate, but those companies change their appearance, the types of products that they offer, the branding, and so Costco, it's similar to a Sam's Club, but there are some differences in terms of prices and the products offered and things like that, and just the vibe of the store that when you walk into it. So that's monopolistic competition. Okay, oligopoly is where a small number of businesses dominate the market. And in an oligopoly, it's very common that there's going to be some sort of price fixing or communication to set prices at a certain amount. And that's not allowed technically. But we still see large companies dominating. Okay? And then monopoly is a situation where one company has a lock on the market. Okay, there's no close substitutes. And what we do allow in some situations, for electricity for San Diego, there's only SDG&E. And usually the problem with a monopoly is when you have a lock on the market, then you can raise prices, and that can really hurt people's buying and selling. And in the long run, it actually hurts the economy. So what we want is competition, but we don't always have it. But in some situations, we have to have a monopoly. So for instance, water. We don't want to have 10 different water lines that people can choose from, because then we would have pipes everywhere running through. Same thing with electricity. If we didn't have a monopoly, we would have wires going everywhere from all these different companies. And so we do allow monopolies. And so whenever a monopoly is allowed, like electricity, you have one choice: San Diego Gas and Electric. If there's one company, then the government is going to really be on top of it. There's going to be lots of rules, lots of regulations to make sure, and those companies have to go to the government for approval to raise prices. There are times when the market does not work correctly, and you need to understand a lot of this is human emotion. But there could be something that's keeping it from working, and market failures lead to problems in our overall economy. So if there's not enough competition, and that usually leads to an oligopoly or monopoly, again, that leads to paying more for worse stuff, and we don't want that. Government wants to encourage competitions. Sometimes we'll see if one company is getting too big, the government will just break it up into smaller bits, and that creates more competition. Okay, and then information. It is impossible to know what every company is selling a particular product for. And but in general, for the most part, people know, and you can look it up now. It's much easier to look up a price, particularly with smartphones. You can just scan the barcode, and it'll tell you if there's better price nearby. But that's adequate information. If people don't know, then people are going to get taken advantage of, and that might actually, and just that not knowing can cause people to not purchase, which hurts the economy. There are times when we see resources going into something that's a complete waste of time and energy and money, land labor and entrepreneurs. And sometimes something has to fail in order for it to flow into something better. So if the government does not allow for resources to flow to the right thing, we have something called resource immobility. And so that actually holds countries back. So when we see government sanctioned businesses or government run businesses, we see lots of resources flowing into something that's really bad. An externality, third party is harmed by something somebody else does. It's very difficult to price in externalities. This is one of those things where government decides to do something, or business decides to do something, and somebody else is harmed. So if a freeway is built right next to a house, the cost of that, or the value of that house, will drop because nobody wants to live right next to a freeway. That's an externality. It's a consequence that hurts somebody else. And then public goods, again, this also can cause market failures. There are times when if the government doesn't do it, then nobody's going to do it. So that's one of those issues with the mail service. There are these people that live way out in the middle of nowhere, and only person that'll deliver to them is a government postal officer. And so that's one of those things where we need public goods. One of the things, though, is sometimes if the government didn't provide it, that product may not show up for people. And that is the end of the first section of chapter 7.